Hi, Jen.
Hi, Em.
What's up?
How you doing?
Back at Westchester Studios. We're hyped to be here again.
Always.
They didn't kick us out yet. If you could instantly become an expert in any random skill, what would it be? This is a fun question.
Okay. It would have to be construction.
Oh my God. Wouldn't you love to just be like the world's best contractor in a day?
Absolutely.
The amount of money you could save. Or a mason.
A
I
mason.
like a dying skill that I could charge a lot of money for.
You think it's a dying skill? Don't tell
Yeah,
the
'cause
masons.
too many people are going to college. We don't have enough trade workers.
Oh my God. But I think that's...
Don't go to college, kids.
Yeah.
That's my general PSA.
all the kids who are listening to this, thank God that you're telling all the kids who listen to our podcast.
You know that my dream for Millie, my 6-year-old, is to be a welder.
I love it. Can I ask you a question? Like, why welder specifically?
It just feels like an empowering thing to do.
Like fire.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Fire.
Fire.
Yeah, she is definitely not going to be a welder.
What do you think she's going to be?
Something really nice, like a teacher,
Whoa.
probably. She doesn't have the same.
She doesn't
fire
have like the
as
welder.
me.
She doesn't have like the welder fire. Do you feel like that's what you wanted to be? And like, you're
No.
trying to like pass it down? You like always wanted to be a welder and this is the first time you're discovering this about yourself?
I don't think I knew what welding was when I was her age.
Right. Maybe she doesn't know.
I don't think I was exposed to enough
Maybe should
lesbians.
have like a children's welding book that you guys can read together.
No, she has like 50 children's books on like science and coding and engineering.
Okay.
She might be an engineer, actually, like my husband.
I could
She's
see that.
Yes, right. She's like the way her brain works.
I could totally see
So
that.
you would be some type of home reno. I mean, drywalling.
I'm always thinking about
cabinetry.
like how I could save money. There's like every
Okay, but
time.
realistically, like, what do you spend the most money on? Like, right now, eggs.
So you could be a farmer. Right? I feel like that's the answer. No, but like if anything breaks, I don't know how to do any of that. I only know how to put furniture together from IKEA.
You're really good at
And
that, though, and
I
that is
am
a skill.
a pro. I could be a task rabbit for putting furniture together.
You could be a TaskRabbit.
And I love it. Something about it gets me going.
Because you're watching a TV show the whole time.
Exactly.
You're like screwing things in
So I'm
together,
doing
watching
something
people
with
get
my
murdered.
hands, and you're right, and someone's getting murdered, or
You're true crime.
Right.
I think there's a lot of random skills. Here's what I would take. I'd take any of them. I have very few.
That is not true. You have so many. Singing. Number 1, singing. Okay. Dancing. So many.
Yeah.
Should we keep going?
Stripping.
Stripping. She's a triple threat. Singing, dancing, and stripping. I didn't know about stripping, but now I do.
If I can sing and dance, why couldn't I strip?
No, you can't. You
Yeah.
can. I'm not trying. Listen.
You know what I suck at? Getting pregnant.
Right.
Maybe that would.
That should be the skill. Like, hello.
Yes. I could save so much money on my fertility
Exactly. It's
treatment.
all about you got to save money. You didn't have to shoot yourself with 300 shots. Unbelievable. That would have really saved you a lot of time.
A lot of time and a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that would be my random
I'm going to
skill.
stick with being a contractor.
No, I think being a contractor is dope.
Right? And then you're never anxious about things going wrong in your house, how to get them done.
Okay, but I don't think contractors can just like fix everything though. Well, like, don't they do the planning, or you think they can do most things?
They do everything in the world.
Wow.
They could do a lot.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I have never talked to a contractor about like what they can do. I think they just like tell people what to do.
You're a contractor.
Tell us what's going on
Maybe
there.
like a car mechanic.
No.
Women mechanics are hot. What are you talking about?
No, that's all good. It's just I'm not a big car girl. You think I'm like, oh, never mind. I would love to be a hot woman mechanic. You think that's why I said no?
You're like weirdly discriminating against for some reason. Like your one hate thing is female mechanics.
No. I just like, I'm not that into cars, you know? Have you seen my car? I don't give a shit about
seen
it.
my car?
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
There's a piece of plastic on the bottom of my car coming off, and then often there's sparks coming out of when I drive.
I open. There's sparks coming out of it.
It's like rubbing on the asphalt.
Honestly, it probably makes you look pretty cool. Like
welding.
Right.
This is my welding material.
That's why you need to be a welder.
I don't think you weld plastic though.
I couldn't tell you. Well, we're not welders.
If I had the skill.
If you had the skill, we would know. Yeah, you definitely don't weld plastic. That's ridiculous.
You know, and I often compare myself to highly skilled people. And today's episode is the comparison trap. Why do we compare ourselves to other people? And as you know, I clearly compare myself to other welders and buy things like that.
So there is a evolutionary component to why
We do this.
we compare ourselves to
So you're not
other
just
people.
pathetic.
Understanding.
It's not just because you hate yourself.
Right. Because also everyone does this.
Yes.
There is an evolution.
But you hear people be like, why do I compare myself? Because you're fucking human.
Right. Because there it is. Because you're human. That is the reason.
God forbid you're human. That's what my therapist always says. She's like, oh, what? You're not a human? I'm like, I'm not. Make me perfect. Why don't people love me? Okay, sorry, continue.
So it's okay. It's all right. It's okay. It was a beautiful, beautiful cut in right there. Understanding one's status relative to other people is how we have learned to grow and evolve. So it's natural that we as human beings have evolved into this place of like, I need to compare myself in order to survive. Like if I understand myself relative to someone else, it'll help me grow in some way. Like that is how we've survived as human beings. So our brains have developed that, right? So it naturally happens. However, it is no longer helping us survive in the same way. It's tearing us down. Okay.
Well, it's like, but how funny that it was like made for survival, but now you can get on Instagram and you can compare yourself and your followers to anyone for no biological reason whatsoever.
No. And in fact, it hurts us. It makes us, because we look at social
the
media.
Things that help us survive don't help us thrive.
Wow. And listen, like this developed from like early humans. Like they didn't have social media back then.
No shit. They're like in a fucking cave where it's like who can run the fastest.
Right.
From
like I need to.
What's an animal that was alive then?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
Cheetah.
Another thing we wish we were experts in being historians. Also not great at that. Or an evolutionary psychologist. I think that's something that maybe we could have been experts in.
We're not experts in fucking anything.
Or, we got something, here and there.
I would say we're specialists.
Yeah, beautiful. Specialists.
Experts. I feel like to be an expert, it's a tangent. It's an issue I have with there's a lot of therapists out there like, I'm an expert in this. I'm like, no, being an expert means you know fucking everything there is to know on that subject. You're a specialist.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's got to be so few actual experts.
Yeah. You think? Probably.
I have no idea, but I'll compare myself to them and I'll do it for evolutionary basis. Bias.
There's also, I wanted to talk a bit about social comparison theory. There are two types of social comparisons. Upward comparisons, where you compare yourself to someone perceived as superior, often leading to motivation or alternatively insecurity.
Vegans. This is how I feel about vegans.
You compare yourself to them.
I'm like, you're so good.
Right. Wow.
Good for you.
Good for you.
You're such a better person than I am.
Right. Leading to insecurity.
It should lead me to inspire and eat more plants, but
it doesn't. Or downward comparison, comparing oneself to someone perceived as worse off, often boosting self-esteem or reinforcing a sense of gratitude.
Oh, well, that's a lovely way to think about it.
Right. Like, oh, I feel grateful in some way.
I thought you're like, I'm better than you. How
Right. So, I mean, that's like the boosting self. So here's, right. I think that upward comparisons and downward comparisons can have their impacts both positively and negatively.
So is there like lateral comparisons, right? Like, okay, so like I have a 6-year-old and my daughter's learning to read.
Yes.
She's definitely average on the reading scale,
yes.
Right? There's kids in her class that are like fully reading chapter books.
Yes.
And I'm sure kids not reading anything. I don't know. I've never asked. But I'm like, oh man, she's like, this kid is like average. So like, there's also a part of like, oh, like, is she behind? You know, like, you really start to feel this. It's really, really common that the first few years of postpartum too, when your kid's like hitting like multiple like milestones, and like, my kid isn't walking, but that kid down the street is, or they're not talking, like, and so you're trying to figure out, like, is my kid behind? Am I supposed to do early intervention? Like, so there's a part of like, you try to make sense of stuff to see like what intervention you need to do.
Well, I feel like that's productive in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
right? Is that like, and
Until
that's
you make it not productive.
Exactly.
I mean,
So,
anything
like-
can be,
right. Anything can be productive until it's not productive. So like you're almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously I'm not a parent, but you're almost called to do comparisons even from, right, like in utero. Aren't you like comparing like the size of the baby to what is supposed to, I mean, I don't know, do you tell me? I don't know.
Well, yeah, there's like little apps, right? And the app tells you like, you're on week 27. It's the size of like, but now they're funny. Like, it used to only, when I had my daughter, right, 6 years ago, it was like just fruit. Your baby's the size of a carrot. Now they're very funny. It's like, your baby is the size of the hamburger phone from the movie Juno.
Cool.
Like, they're like way more specific of references, which I enjoy.
What week do you think your baby was the size of my head?
Now. My baby is 100% the size of your head right now. This kid is like 3 pounds.
What, you think my head's 3 pounds?
It's so small. Dude.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know how many fucking pounds you have. Later we'll get a scale and I'll put your head down and I'll lift the rest of your.
That would be great. That's a really productive use of our time.
That'll be my skill. Someone's like, you know why you don't have any fucking skills, Emily? It's because this is what you would do.
Because this is what you're doing in
shit
your
today.
free time. So, but no, I feel like there are so many, right? You're hitting benchmarks as kids.
Yes, yeah.
And these benchmarks are based on like other kid, right? The norm.
Yeah.
And so you're called.
Well, your kid is like, a kid's really underweight or something,
Yeah.
right? And you want them to be able to have like a healthy BMI.
Right.
So you want to feed your kid more, have them, you know what I mean? Like take like higher like caloric dense food, right?
Yeah.
So there is some ways, right? We talk about it is the psychological and emotional needs of comparison.
Yes.
And one of those is self-evaluation.
Yes.
Right? So like it doesn't always have to be this horrible thing.
Yeah. Well, and we're called to do it, right? To understand like how are we developing?
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest question is the comparison helping you or is it hurting you?
Yeah.
And it happens so quickly because it's like wired into our brain and it's wired into our society that we don't take the time to think like, is this actually helping me? Like when we're getting on social media and we're seeing, I don't know, someone like out in Bali, like, working remotely, and which honestly sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
But to think about, first of all, what's happening behind the scenes?
Who's paying for that?
Who's paying for that? How'd you get there? What's actually going on? Is that realistic for my life, right?
Did you watch White Lotus?
Did you watch, right? Did you watch White Lotus? Did you go straight there, even though they're in Thailand?
Okay. Well,
Just
okay.
saying.
But so the other thing, right, this comparison can be used for is health improvement. Here's an example of that. Right, so my daughter's learning to read, and we had her parent-teacher conference a few weeks ago, and she was like, her teacher was like, oh man, first of all, she's improved so much, she's doing really well, and also here's this other cool thing she's improved with, which is that 3 months ago, if she needed to ask for help, she was super resistant to asking for help. She didn't want to ask for help. Now she'll go ask for help. She was, and like other girls in the class that are like already reading.
Yeah.
Like she's like, oh, like there's this one girl in her class who is just this kid is like the best kid in the world. You ever meet a kid and you're like, you are better than I have ever been in my life.
Yes.
Like, she's pure, she's wonderful, she's
Yes.
smart. She's a really sweet girl named Nora. And she's a great reader. And so Millie has now, they said, now she's going to Nora and asking for help.
Wow.
With some of the spelling and not resistant. So she is using the comparison towards self-improvement, which is a super cool thing to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to like before, she was like a little ego involved of like, I'm not asking for help.
Well, right. So she, as opposed to the comparison leading to kind of like question the insecurity and questioning yourself.
Yep.
It's leading to say, well, how do I want to improve and how can I improve?
Yeah,
like,
let me
can
ask
I
someone
reach
for help.
that? Right. And so that's the question. So, but that's a real life example of like, this could be helpful to compare
Yes.
and figure out like where you could grow, right? In a work setting, you see someone who is achieving and doing really well. You could take that as, oh my God, I'm not doing that well. I'm comparing, I feel insecure. Like, what's wrong with me? Or you could say, I want to understand how that person is achieving, how they're growing. I'm going to go talk to them and figure out, like, what are you doing? You know, tell me a little bit about, like, how you've gotten to where you are.
Yeah.
So we naturally compare. It's about what we do with that comparison that matters.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the role of social media?
I think it's just naturally going to happen.
Okay.
You know, like, should we get into listener questions and talk about the role of social?
Okay, we'll have those go together
It's going to come up.
Okay. Is all first question.
Exactly.
Is all of Instagram a comparison trap? Is there a safe way to engage on this platform? Yes.
Yes.
I think there is a safe way to engage on any type of social media of how we use it.
Yeah.
Any type of technology, it's about what we do with the technology. And what sort of messaging and understanding we agree with it, right? There is a ton of helpful fucking information on social media. There is also a lot of damaging and incorrect social information on social media, right? They did this study out of Yale of ADHD information from TikTok, and it was like 83% the information about ADHD on TikTok was incorrect.
Oh my goodness.
And like people like, you know, everyone's self-diagnosing themselves on TikTok. And like all of the information is fucking incorrect. So one, who am I following? What's their actual credentials? Because I'm sorry, but it fucking matters. Right? Like, so like you hear this a lot. You hear this a lot in like the anti-vax community of I did my own research. People go to school for years at a time to learn how to properly read research. How many classes did you have in your life on how to actually read research?
So many.
And so I love that idea, do your own research. I think it's great to be informed. Yeah. And I would be interested about, like, how do you read that stuff, right? Like, what expertise do you have in this? Are you understanding all the information that you're comprehending?
So where are you finding research? You know what I mean? Like, you need like a link to LexisNexis or something.
I have a life hack for that. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah. Are you sure LexisNexis isn't going to come after you?
Yes. We're going to get blackballed from our scientific journals for this, just so you know.
Blackballed? Is that what it's called? Blackballed? Is that real?
I don't think that's a thing.
That's okay. Get to keep going. Keep going.
These nuts. Okay. I feel.
So you're not going to give us the.
No, I'm going to tell you. Okay. So if let's say you like Google and like you see some paper, and then usually there's a firewall, right? You have to like pay to belong like the scientific journal. Do you know most authors are happy to send you the information? So what you can do is look up the author on that paper, see if they have a website to contact them. And most of the time, because they're not making money off of when you pay that firewall, right?
Yeah.
Like they get published and then you're paying that goes to the journal. Just email the authors and say, like, this came up on Google. I would really love to read your work. People are happy. Researchers are so happy to share their information. There's a life hack.
They've worked so hard on it. Of course they want to share it.
Are you impressed that I know that?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something, I don't know.
What is like, you know, like,
I don't know,
black
like
market Google? Or
yeah,
something?
like you were like coding stuff. Like all of a sudden you do this. You were like a tech genius.
No, I'm a relational genius.
Wow.
You just ask.
That's beautiful.
I guess I am a relational expert, maybe.
Wow, you are.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not a fucking tech genius. You've met me. Remember?
I was like, why aren't you running the IT department of the therapy group? It's always been me.
Remember a few years ago when I had a sticker on my laptop telling me all of the shortcuts of how to use the laptop?
Like Control-Alt-Delete.
You're like,
She needed us. I was like,
yo, you have to take that off.
yeah.
It's like
I was like really embarrassing. I can't go anywhere with you.
So reach out to the author. You know what I mean? Like read a full research paper. Like, I mean, but like how often someone's like, oh, I read this thing online, but it's like, dude, no, you like read the highlight of an article.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's what I mean. It's like really do your research.
Yeah. So once again, there is a very, very healthy, incredible, educational, improvement oriented way to use social media. I just wonder if you're actually using it that way.
And be very conscious when you're going on it, right? If you know you are prone to compare yourself to other people when you get on social media, take a second to say to yourself, well, how do I need to? And I know, no one goes on social media and they're very conscious of what's going on.
You're going on there to numb.
You're going on there to numb. You're going on there to disassociate. So, but if you recognize that when you're getting off social media, you're feeling like complete shit about yourself, you're not feeling motivated, you're feeling really insecure, then I would say before you get on social media, say to yourself, okay, I'm going to be conscious of like how I'm feeling during this. What are the things I'm saying to myself? How do I feel when I get off of it? Emily hasn't been on social media in like a year and a half. How long's it been?
September, I think it's 2.5 years.
Oh my God, time flies.
I think it's 2.5 years since I went on Instagram.
Wow.
Yes.
Big Reddit girl though.
This bitch be loving Reddit. That's true. I won't be giving up. Actually, that's not true. I took 2 months off Reddit after the election.
Yeah.
Because I was so upset.
Yes. It's a rough time.
And I was like, I just can't do this. I am now back on Reddit. And I will say that I will occasionally log into Facebook there was like a, private practice networking community that I like often put our names in. So for some marketing. So I will use Facebook business, but I don't, I have about 25 friends on it, I think. They're all from my gym.
Wow.
Because I joined my gym group too, and my neighborhood group.
Beautiful.
Where people basically just say, I lost a package. Is this your front door? It's never mine.
Wow.
But okay.
Someone said so hard, comparing grief, never feeling like mine is bad enough. This is so important to talk about. That's why I wanted to bring this one up, because everyone grieves differently. And understanding what you need, how you need to grieve is the most important thing. I wonder what you're saying to yourself about your grief, about like what it means to maybe for it not to be bad enough. Like, what are you feeling like that means about the relationship that you had, that you lost, the person that's no longer there? What are you feeling that means that it doesn't feel bad enough? Because everyone grieves differently. There is no right way to grieve. There's no right way to feel anything. You feel how you feel. You grieve how you grieve. But I'm wondering if you can just ask yourself, what's the meaning behind comparing your grief to what you're expecting grief is supposed to look like?
Well, and the word we have for this, we've talked about before, is disenfranchised grief. There is a lot of grief that is not socially acceptable, socially celebrated, socially acknowledged, right? You could lose a dog, one of the most important things in your life, a cat, right? How often do people check in on you?
A lot of people checked in on me when I lost my cat.
Actually, maybe we're better about animals than we ever have been before. I take that back. Miscarriages, abortions,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Loss of friendship breakups,
Yes.
right? Like loss of a job. There's like lots of stuff. Man, maybe we have gotten better about pet grief. That's what my specialty should be as a therapist.
Pet grief. I
would not be able to hear that all day, actually.
No. Oh my God. So hard. But I think that's another thing, like with the disenfranchised grief, right? That sometimes we feel like, oh, why is this so hard? It's not supposed to be this hard.
And just because other people don't think it should be hard does not mean that it shouldn't.
Exactly.
That it isn't hard.
Exactly.
How to focus on your own stuff and not caught up with others doing things you wish you were. What do you wish you were? I would need to know a little bit more information here, right? Like, what is this deep thing? What that might be is like, oh, like, I have friends that are traveling. I'm not in the financial means to do that. Well, I might not be in the financial means to fly out to Bali, but maybe I am to do more hiking in a local area, right? So, like, how do I intentionally, instead of just being like, well, I just got to focus on what I have going on, you're also allowed to say, like, I want to be doing more of this. How do I intentionally do that within my means and capability?
I would also ask yourself, what is it about traveling? Like, what do you feel like you're missing in your environment, right? Is it that there's a level of freedom, right? That you're, observing that this person might have. Is it they're in a sunny place? Like, what is it about the traveling that you're like, I don't feel like I'm getting that right now? Sometimes comparison brings up what we feel like we're lacking. And so what you do with that is what matters, right? As opposed to just, I'm missing this. And so I feel like shit now, right? As opposed to, well, I'm missing this. And how do I incorporate things in my life, things that are reasonable and make sense that allow me to get some of that? Do I need more sunlight? What does that look like? Do I get a sun lamp? Do I need a little bit more time to myself? How do I get that? What does that look like? So that is where we go back to comparison can either lead to, well, now I feel insecure and I feel like shit, or it can lead to, okay, well, how do I incorporate this into my own life? Like maybe it doesn't mean you're going to Bali, but maybe it means you are finding space for yourself in small increments.
Yeah. The idea of being on a timeline and being behind is so hard to combat. Yes, it is. No comments. You're right. This sucks. It is drastically unfair. I also think, especially for women, if you are interested in having children and you're being highly considerate of a biological timeline, that it is incredibly challenging. I also think, one part of me is like, oh, it's so empowering. We can freeze our eggs. And the other one, I'm like, oh, now there's just a pressure to freeze your fucking eggs.
Right.
Like
It's just pressure all around.
It's like, even like, we're going to give you options, but the options are still not going to be ideal.
Right.
Right? You get a little bit more choice, but good luck,
Yeah.
And so I think that there is no other way to say, like, hey, like, this is actually like a really upsetting thing that's part of life. And even as children, we feel the timeline, right? Like, even as kids, like, you're going from elementary to middle to high school. And like, maybe, like, do you remember when people started getting their, not us, we were old for our grades.
Yes.
Right? We got the license first.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like the first person in my class. I'm like, older for age, right? We're like some of the first ones. But I can't imagine how hard that was for some of those other kids that had to wait a long time to get their license.
Yeah. This is not a good example. I got my period really late and I was so jealous of everyone else.
Wow. I got my period in 4th grade
I know.
and wanted to blow my brains out. I was like, can I please take, nobody I knew had their period yet.
Yeah.
I looked very bad. I was not an attractive puberty child.
Also, we posted a picture on social media recently and I think I was probably like 5 years older than you in that picture.
And I looked like I was
And we
17.
looked like we were the same age.
Yeah. Like, I went through puberty so early.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed.
Yeah. It's so how interesting is that, right?
Yeah.
So like
it wasn't good for either of us.
It wasn't.
Grass is always greener, baby.
Grasses and you're just comparing yourself, right?
Yes.
Like you're constantly thinking about like how uncomfortable this is or, like how has this not happened for me yet? Like you're always going to compare yourself in some way, right? And just as we said, society and like growing up, like almost asks us to do that. You go to the doctor, they say, oh, did she get her period yet? Oh, she got her period at this time compared to like other people. So like there's just always a question of where are you falling in line? And it just continues.
And everyone's so different, right? So like your mom probably was later. You know what I mean? There's also like a genetic component here. And also now there's a lot of hormones in food. Right. So
ate a lot of that meat.
Well, no one can afford eggs anymore. So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about someone said, I think it's heightened these days by unrealistic standards. A bulk of my work lies here.
Oh, I'm so interested in what the work is.
The unrealistic standards.
Yeah.
That's probably true. I mean, I think you can see this. Like, listen, I always feel this. One of the most triggering things for me about social media, about Instagram, was not about, like, for so many people, it's like, oh, how people look and weight and bodies. Mine was houses.
Yeah.
You see those influencers in their perfect houses. My house does not look like that.
Right.
My house looks like a combination of IKEA, Target, and a few nice West Elm pieces threw up and fucked on a couch. Like, my house is not looking like that.
Right.
It is so messy. Your house looks like fucking art, Jen.
But there's still shit
everywhere. Yes.
Just
a lot of shoes in your house.
A lot of shoes. I moved them downstairs. I got a little
I'd like to
shoe
see how
thing.
that looks. That's good for you.
Looks better, it's driving me crazy. But like papers and we have a whole room that isn't furnished yet. You know what I mean?
Instagram, that was one of the most challenging things is like home stuff.
Oh my God, I feel that.
For some reason. And like, I am not in a place where I can afford like you know, to have a perfectly decorated, curated home.
Right.
I don't got money like that. Like these people, I'm like, where is this? How are you doing this?
Or is it just, okay, so, but it's like, is it just what's in frame? You don't see what's out of
all the
frame.
other stuff, yeah.
You don't see all
Although
the
I do like, you know, there's like cool influencers who are like, what my home really looks like. There's people trying to normalize it.
See, I really appreciate
like normalize your real house. I want to see your trash
I want to see what's
house.
not in frame, but it gives you a really good picture of, you know, whether it's a house, whether it's, you know, a vacation, whether it's someone editing what they look like. We're not seeing what's behind the scenes. We're not seeing what, you know, people did to get to that place. We're not seeing what's real.
We should start a social media trend called Transparent Tuesdays, where I just show you how fucking gross my house is.
I think that's a great idea.
But it would be so bad. I know clients would be like, not going to her. That
They're like,
a
not
mess.
having it. Well, but I think that's the thing, right?
All
There's
my
a fear.
all my doors in my house have claw marks from the dogs.
But I think that there's a fear of like, that's vulnerable in some way.
No,
right?
I'm worried about what people will think. If I was going to actually start this trend, my fear, right, would be like, oh man, people are going to think like I'm less quote unquote perfect. I'm less together. I'm less mature. Oh my God, this is a grown woman in her late 30s. You know, like these are my fears people will say.
Yeah.
But when people do that, I'm like, fuck yeah, show me your
Right, because it makes you feel better.
Yes, I enjoy it.
Because you're like, oh, that makes
But
sense
I'm
to
also
me.
a very low judgmental person because...
Well, I think too, being therapists and like understanding what's behind the scenes, right? We get to see what's behind the scenes of people's lives.
Yes.
And every day you're interacting with people and you don't see what's behind the scenes of their lives. As therapists, you are so privileged to see the reality of what's going on, what's behind the scenes. I was just talking to someone, who was it? I can't remember. Maybe,
Jamie.
can't remember. Yeah. But they were saying like, I just assume like no one fights, right? Like if I don't know them. And I was like, I assume every couple fights.
Yes, that's the best thing about being a couples
Exactly.
therapist. It's like, oh my God, I know. You know, when you meet, I do have one couple friend of ours that they don't yell at each other ever. Like I was like, oh, you never say like fuck off to him? And she was like, no, like I don't even know what would happen if we spoke like that to each other. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's not what my house sounds like. Right. Okay, I want to answer one more question that we have to get to Dear Gemini.
Who are we?
Someone edit that. Okay. What do I do with discontentment? That's why I compare. And one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we talk about this is because it's important to know that the human brain processes information relatively, not absolutely. This means that we don't judge our successes, our happiness, our self-worth in isolation, right? Nothing happens in a vacuum. We compare it to what others have. So if I came from a situation where I had very little, right? I didn't have access to means. I didn't have access to privilege. I didn't have access to healthy relationships. And then I'm in a place where I'm not in staggering debt. I'm able to afford an apartment. I am a high success in my situation. But then I get on social media and I see an influencer who comes from great wealth and had everything given to them. And I think I am failing. Well, that's simply not true. You are greatly succeeding. But we are always judging ourselves and without looking at the background. So I want to bring that blast up and then we'll do Dear Gemini. Shh.
That was it. You got it.
What's your name? Who are
I don't
you?
know. I don't know who I am. Identity crisis. Okay. Dear Em and Jen, how do I cope with being childless, not by choice? I'm a 32-year-old female who desperately wants children, to be a mom, and to have a family. However, this has not happened for me. I understand that I still have time, but I'm finding the looming idea that it might not happen a really depressing thought. Furthermore, the want to have a family, I worry, is negatively impacting my romantic relationships. I want things to move quickly. On one hand, I know that everyone says that relationships take time, but on the other hand, I feel like at my age, we don't have the time to build intimacy for 5 years before we decide to have a family. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and a half. I want a baby. I want him to propose. He assures me that these things will come soon, but I am fighting with the resentment towards him with each passing day. I don't want to wake up one day and be 35 without the things I wanted. I've lingered in relationships that were not right for me before, and I sometimes wonder if I need to let this one go now. Am I being irrational? My timeline for being engaged was a year of dating. Are my timelines unrealistic? Any help is appreciated. I listen and love the podcast. Thank you for all your guys' work. It really helps. Well, why are you laughing?
I just want to know what you're going to say.
Well, I just think the timeline, right, is something that we compare. We compare in a lot of ways. I think
she's saying is my timeline unrealistic.
I think it's important to know what you want. That's the first thing I'm going to say. The second thing I'm going to say.
That Jen will never say anything.
No, I'm getting there.
Harsh, okay.
I'm getting there. What matters now is the timeline in your relationship, not just your timeline.
Yeah. You're not thinking relationally.
And to think relationally means you are building a timeline with your partner.
Yeah, not just you.
And for so long, right, it sounds like you're like, I want this family. This is how I picture my life. And so you have had to think about only yourself of like, I need to make sure this happens. And so your timeline has been just about you and what you need. Now you're in a relationship, a committed, happy, it sounds like a happy relationship where you're communicating. What matters is your relational timeline. So I would wonder if you're having the conversation of like, I understand my timeline was 1 year. I want to talk about like, what's your idea of a timeline? Like, let's build this together because go ahead.
I also have to say, if your goal is to have a baby, you actually don't need a partner for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would also really encourage this person to be like, what is my actual goal? Because if your goal is to be married with children, then you need to focus on the relationship, right? If your goal is to have a child, like that's not for us to judge. It's not for us to say what is wrong or right.
Right.
I think you have to really say to yourself, because if your goal is to just be a mom, you can go do that.
Yeah.
Actually, it's expensive, it's tiring, it's difficult, but it is possible. You actually do not need a partner to do that. It is 2025. Congratulations. And I think, but if you are looking to create a co-parenting family, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need a partner to have a family, but like any of these things, I think you have to be honest about like what your goal is.
Yeah.
Because this person, a partner is not just a sperm donor.
Right. If you want a sperm donor, you don't have to create a timeline with them.
Dude, you can do that shit now.
Right?
Hell
you
yeah,
can
right?
hold on to your timeline as much as possible.
That's the coolest thing is like you actually get to choose. But if you are wanting a healthy, stable relationship, you have to think relationally. And their wants, desires, and timeline matters too. Not just your anxiety. But I think your fear is what's getting in the way. Your fear and your scarcity mindset. If it doesn't happen now, it's not going to happen, right? And also, if you're thinking like, I'd rather get out of this relationship because my goal matters more, I think that's something important to acknowledge about like how significant this person is, or could they be replaceable?
You get to make
with
that
someone
decision.
else who has the same goals, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that you should decide for yourself what your goals are. You are allowed to do that. You are not awful or horrible or toxic for thinking any of those things. Like, what you want really fucking matters. And I think we're like, we don't like saying that.
Right. That's our episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget to grow yourself. You got to know yourself.